I'm leaving you. I met someone, her name is Natasha, and she's everything you're not. We're moving to the Maldives. Good luck with your grumpy mother. The words glared back at me from the screen of my phone, each one colder than the last. I sat in my mom's hospital room, the faint beeping of machines blending with the hum of the overhead lights. Her breathing was steady for now, her frail body finally at rest after another difficult day. Michael didn't even have the decency to call. Just a text, cruel and dismissive, like the last 3 years of our marriage meant nothing. I'm Jennifer, 33 years old, and up until now I thought I had my life mostly together. My dad passed away when I was in my 20s, leaving behind my mom, who I've been caring for since she got sick. Michael always made it clear that he wasn't a fan of this arrangement. It's not like she's your responsibility, he'd say, rolling his eyes when I had to miss a dinner or cancel plans to take care of her. You need to focus on us, not her. In hindsight, it's not surprising that he'd do something like this. Michael had always been selfish, but I thought I could handle it. Thought I could help him grow into someone better. I reread the text and put my phone away. There was no point dwelling on it now. My focus needed to be on my mom. When I finally left the hospital late that night and headed back home, the full weight of Michael's betrayal began to sink in. I opened the door to the house we shared, a space that suddenly felt unfamiliar, and let out a deep sigh. As I dropped my bag onto the couch, something caught my eye. The diamond necklace my dad had given me, sitting exactly where I'd left it on my dresser. Or at least, I thought it was the necklace. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. It looked right at first glance, but something felt off. It seemed lighter than I remembered. I traced my finger along the clasp, noting the faint scratch marks that hadn't been there before. A wave of unease washed over me, but I pushed it aside. Maybe I was just tired. An hour later, as I was unpacking, my phone buzzed with an alert. I glanced at the screen and froze. Security alert. Item has been moved from its designated location. I stared at the notification in disbelief. The tracking chip embedded in the clasp of my necklace, a precaution my dad insisted on when he gifted it to me, had been activated. The system had a delay, so Michael should have taken it a few hours earlier. The real necklace wasn't here. Michael didn't just leave me. He stole it. My hands tightened around the fake as I sat down, my mind racing. Michael thought he could betray me and run away with his mistress. He had no idea who he was dealing with. The realization hit me like a wave. Michael hadn't just walked out on me. He'd taken the most precious thing I owned. Sitting on the couch with the fake necklace in my hands, my mind raced through every possibility. When had he done it? How long had he been planning this? The thought of him sneaking into our bedroom, replacing the necklace with a cheap forgery, made my stomach churn. The diamond necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was my dad's final gift to me, a symbol of his love and pride. Losing him had been the hardest thing I'd ever faced, and this necklace was one of the few tangible pieces of him I had left. Michael knew that. He knew what it meant to me, and he still took it. I opened the tracking app tied to the security chip embedded in the real necklace. The blinking dot on the map told me exactly where it had been taken, a pawn shop 3 miles away. My jaw tightened as the anger began to build. How dare he? The realization settled deeper into my bones. Michael had been planning this for a while. His abrupt text message, the way he didn't even try to justify his actions. It was all part of his escape plan. But the question remained, why? I called the pawn shop, forcing my voice to stay calm. Hi, I'm calling about a diamond necklace that may have been brought into your shop recently. It has a security chip, and I just received an alert about its location. There was a pause before the man on the other end replied, yeah, we had a piece like that come in this morning. A guy sold it. Tall, dark hair, seemed a little jittery. Michael. Do you still have it? I asked, my heart pounding. Not anymore, he said. We reported it to the authorities when we noticed the security chip. It flagged as stolen, so it's out of our hands now. You might want to contact law enforcement. I hung up and stared at the wall, the full weight of the situation sinking in. Michael had not only betrayed me, he had stolen from me and left a trail of evidence behind. My sadness turned into determination. I wouldn't let him get away with this. If he thought he could walk away from our marriage with my father's necklace and live happily ever after in the Maldives with his mistress, he had another thing coming. The next morning, I contacted law enforcement and provided them with all the details. The tracking chip's data, the pawn shop's report, and Michael's suspiciously timed departure were enough to catch their attention. An investigator from the FBI got involved, and they assured me that cases like this weren't uncommon. "We'll handle it," the agent said firmly. "A high-value item like this won't just disappear." Hearing those words gave me a sense of relief, but only a little. The diamond necklace wasn't just a high-value item, it was irreplaceable. As the hours passed, I pieced together the puzzle. Michael's betrayal wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision. The fake necklace, the sudden text, and the pawn shop visit all pointed to a carefully planned scheme. I scrolled through his social media, a habit I'd developed to track his erratic behavior over the years. That's when I found it. A photo posted just a few hours earlier. Michael was lounging on a pristine white sand beach, sunglasses on, a cocktail in hand. Sitting next to him, grinning like she'd won the lottery, was Natasha. She was everything he claimed I wasn't: young, carefree, and utterly clueless about the mess he'd left behind. The caption read, "Finally living the dream. Maldives, life, new beginnings." My stomach churned, but not with sadness. Anger bubbled to the surface, sharp and unrelenting. He thought he was untouchable. He thought I'd sit here broken and powerless while he lived out his fantasy. But Michael didn't know me as well as he thought. I spent the rest of the day gathering every piece of evidence I could find. Bank statements, messages, even receipts from the pawn shop that the investigator forwarded to me. Each document painted a picture of a man desperate to escape his failures, willing to betray the person who had supported him through every stumble. That evening, the investigator called with an update. "We've traced the funds he received from the pawn shop. It looks like he funneled the money into an offshore account before leaving for the Maldives. We're coordinating with local authorities there to freeze the account and recover the necklace." A small smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. Michael had no idea that the fantasy he'd built for himself was already crumbling. I logged off my computer and sat back, holding the fake necklace in my hands. The rage I'd felt earlier was still there, but it was tempered now with something else: determination. Michael thought he'd won, but this was just the beginning. The next morning, I walked into the investigator's office with a folder full of documents. My hands trembled slightly, but I wasn't going to let nerves get the better of me. This wasn't just about the necklace, it was about justice. Detective Chambers greeted me with a firm handshake. "Jennifer, thank you for coming in. Let's go over everything you've brought." I laid out the evidence meticulously. Bank statements highlighting suspicious withdrawals, text messages showing Michael's erratic behavior, and even the receipts forwarded from the pawn shop. "This is everything I could find," I said, my voice steady. "He didn't just take the necklace. He's been funneling money out of our joint account for months." Chambers nodded, his sharp eyes scanning through the papers. "You've done a lot of the legwork for us. This gives us a strong starting point." He turned his attention to the tracking chip data I had provided earlier. "The chip signal stopped when the necklace entered customs in the Maldives. We've already flagged the item with authorities there, but it's a complex process. International cases like this require collaboration with local officials." Hearing this should have made me feel helpless, but it didn't. For the first time since Michael's betrayal, I felt like I had allies on my side. The conversation shifted to Michael's recent activities. Chambers pulled up a file showing his financial activity. "It's clear he's been planning this for months. He sold the necklace for quick cash, but most of his funds are tied up in offshore accounts. We've requested a freeze on those accounts. If approved, it'll be another nail in his coffin." I leaned back, processing everything. "Do you think he knows you're onto him?" Unlikely, Chambers replied. Men like Michael think they're untouchable. That arrogance works in our favor. I left the office feeling a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and a growing sense of clarity. As much as Michael's actions had hurt me, they also forced me to see the truth about him. He wasn't just a selfish man. He was a calculated manipulator who thought he could walk all over me. I wasn't going to let him. That evening, I called my mom to check on her. Hearing her voice, frail but full of warmth, reminded me of why I was fighting so hard. She'd always been my rock, and now it was my turn to be strong for both of us. Before bed, I received a text from Chambers. The case is moving forward. Stay strong, Jennifer. We'll get him. I slept soundly, knowing justice was within reach. Michael's Instagram posts became a daily ritual for me, a strange mix of masochism and motivation. Every picture was a reminder of his betrayal, but they also fueled my determination. One morning, I scrolled through his latest post, a selfie of him and Natasha lounging by an infinity pool. Her oversized sun hat shielded her smug grin, while Michael held up a glass of champagne. The caption read, "Living life without limits. Maldives, paradise. Couple goals." I scoffed, shaking my head. Couple goals? More like criminal goals. Unbeknownst to Michael, the walls were closing in. Detective Chambers had updated me earlier that morning. "We've confirmed his offshore account was frozen yesterday. He likely hasn't realized it yet, but once he does, he'll start scrambling. That's when mistakes happen." Chambers wasn't wrong. The next day, Michael posted a story featuring a shopping spree at a luxury boutique. Natasha paraded around in a designer dress, spinning for the camera while Michael narrated, "Anything for my queen." But the cracks were starting to show. I noticed his posts became less frequent and shorter, as if he were too preoccupied to craft his usual captions. Later that week, I received a call from Chambers. "Jennifer, we have news. The Maldivian authorities have officially flagged Michael. They're preparing to issue an arrest warrant based on the charges we've filed. It's just a matter of time now." Hearing those words gave me a jolt of satisfaction. Michael had played his cards, thinking he held all the power. Now his house of lies was crumbling, and he had no idea. Meanwhile, Natasha seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. Another photo appeared on Michael's feed that evening, the two of them snorkeling in crystal-clear water. I stared at the screen, wondering if Natasha knew the kind of man she was with. Did she realize he was capable of stealing from someone who had done nothing but support him? Or was she complicit in his schemes, willingly blind to the consequences? The next day, I got another call from Chambers. His tone was sharper this time, more urgent. "Jennifer, the arrest warrant has been issued. Local authorities are tracking Michael's movements now. If all goes smoothly, they'll have him in custody within 48 hours. I hung up the phone and allowed myself a small smile. Michael was still sipping cocktails and snapping photos, utterly oblivious to the fact that his perfect little world was about to implode. Soon, he wouldn't be able to run. His fantasy life in paradise would become the nightmare he deserved. 2 days later, I got the call I had been waiting for. "Jennifer, we've got him," Detective Chambers said, his voice filled with quiet satisfaction. "Michael was taken into custody this morning in the Maldives. Local authorities intercepted him at his resort." The rush of relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. "What happens now?" I asked, barely able to contain the mix of emotions swirling inside me. "The Maldivian authorities are holding him pending extradition," Chambers explained. "He's also being charged locally for attempting to transport a flagged item across borders. Natasha wasn't detained, but..." He hesitated. "But what?" "From what we've heard, she's not sticking around. It seems she wasn't thrilled to learn Michael's luxurious lifestyle was built on fraud and theft. Apparently, she left the resort shortly after his arrest." I couldn't stop the laugh that bubbled up. Natasha, the woman who was supposed to be his escape, had abandoned him the moment things got difficult. It was poetic justice at its finest. Later that evening, I saw the fallout for myself. Social media was ablaze with photos and updates. One picture, taken by a fellow guest at the resort, showed Michael being escorted out by two officers, his hands cuffed behind his back. He was wearing the same smug sunglasses he'd donned in all his previous posts, but his expression was anything but confident now. The caption read, "Drama at the resort. Some guy got arrested for theft. Guess paradise isn't for everyone. Scandal." I spent the next hour scrolling through the chaos. Natasha had deleted all her posts featuring Michael, her captions scrubbed clean of any mention of their dream life. A few eagle-eyed commenters speculated that she had already flown back home, leaving Michael to fend for himself. It wasn't long before my phone buzzed with a message from Detective Chambers. "The extradition process has begun. He'll be brought back to face charges here. With the evidence we've collected, it's a solid case. He won't be walking away from this." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something close to peace. Michael, who thought he could steal my father's necklace, my money, and my dignity, was now sitting in a Maldivian jail cell with nowhere to run. And Natasha? She had distanced herself so completely that it was as if their whirlwind romance had never existed. As I sat in the quiet of my living room, holding the fake necklace one last time, I felt vindicated. Michael's betrayal had shattered my life for a moment, but now it was his turn to face the consequences. The day after Michael's arrest, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. I didn't feel like the weight of the world was crushing me anymore. I stretched out in bed, letting the quiet sink in. Michael was gone, and for once the thought didn't hurt. It felt liberating. The first thing I did was visit my mom. Sitting by her bedside in the hospital, I held her hand and updated her on everything that had happened. "He's finally getting what he deserves," I said softly. My mom, frail but always sharp, squeezed my hand weakly. "You're stronger than you think, Jennifer. I've always known that." Her words stayed with me long after I left. I realized that despite the heartbreak and betrayal, I had stood firm. I didn't let Michael's actions destroy me. I fought back. And now, it was time to start focusing on what truly mattered, rebuilding my life. I started small. I cleared out the house, removing every trace of Michael. His clothes, his cologne, even the tacky souvenirs he insisted on keeping. They all went into garbage bags. With each item I tossed, I felt a little lighter, as if I were reclaiming my space, my sanity, and my identity. I also spent more time with my mom, organizing her medical care and ensuring she had everything she needed. Her smile, though faint, reminded me of why I had fought so hard in the first place. The next step was my career. Michael had drained some of our finances, but I wasn't starting from zero. My savings, combined with the funds I managed to recover, gave me a foundation. I reached out to my former boss, a supportive woman named Ellen who had always believed in me. When I explained my situation, Ellen didn't hesitate. "Come back whenever you're ready," she said. "We've missed having you on the team." Her words were a lifeline. Within weeks, I was back at work, diving into projects that reignited my passion. The familiar routines helped me regain a sense of stability, but this time I set clear boundaries. No more working late into the night to appease Michael. My time was mine and I wasn't giving it away again. I also reconnected with friends I had drifted away from during my marriage. Over coffee and long conversations, I realized how much I had missed these relationships. They reminded me of the person I had been before Michael, someone independent, driven, and full of life. Every evening I spent time journaling, reflecting on my journey. The entries weren't always positive. There were still moments of anger and sadness, but they were honest. Writing helped me process everything I had endured and reminded me of the strength I had found within myself. One night, as I was flipping through old photos, I came across a picture of my dad. He was grinning at the camera, the sunlight catching the necklace that now rested safely in my jewelry box. "I did it, Dad," I whispered, holding the photo close. "I didn't let him win." The next day I made a promise to myself, no more living in the past. Michael's chapter in my life was over. Now it was time to focus on me, my mom, and the future we still had ahead of us. It was a quiet evening when I got the message. At first, I didn't recognize the number. The text read, "Jennifer, this is Natasha. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something. Please call me." I stared at the screen, my initial reaction a mix of anger and disbelief. Natasha, the woman who had helped Michael shatter my life, was now reaching out? The nerve. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. With a deep breath, I dialed the number. She answered almost immediately, her voice trembling. "Jennifer, thank you for calling. I'm so sorry for everything," Natasha began, her words tumbling over one another. I didn't know the full extent of what Michael had done. I didn't respond right away, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make her uncomfortable. "What do you want, Natasha?" She sighed, and I heard something that sounded like genuine regret. "When I met Michael, he told me you were the one who wanted the divorce, that you were controlling, that you prioritized your mom over him, and that you were emotionally cold." I clenched my jaw, the old familiar anger bubbling up. "And you believed him?" "I did," she admitted. "At first. But over the past few weeks, I started noticing inconsistencies. He lied about so many things, Jennifer, about his finances, about why he left you, even about how he got the necklace. When I found out it was stolen, I couldn't look at him the same way." There was a pause, and then she added, "I left him the day he was arrested. I flew back home, and I've been trying to make sense of everything since. I felt like you deserved to know." I let out a bitter laugh. "And what do you expect from me? Forgiveness? Sympathy?" "No," Natasha said quickly. "I don't deserve that. I just wanted to apologize. And to tell you that Michael didn't just hurt you. He hurt me too in ways I didn't realize until it was too late. He's a master manipulator." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, I considered the weight of them. I didn't trust her, not completely, but I could see the cracks in her confidence. Michael had used her, just as he'd used me. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally, my tone clipped but civil. "But this doesn't change anything. I'm moving on from Michael, and I suggest you do the same." Natasha let out a shaky breath. "I will. Thank you for listening." When the call ended, I sat in silence, staring at my phone. A part of me felt validated. Michael's lies had caught up to him in every way possible, but I wasn't going to dwell on Natasha's words or her remorse. This wasn't about her or Michael anymore. It was about me reclaiming my life. I got up and put my phone away, focusing instead on the future I was building. Michael's betrayal had once consumed me, but now it was nothing more than a chapter I had already closed. The call came on a crisp Tuesday morning. Detective Chambers' familiar voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Jennifer, I have good news," he said. "The necklace has been officially recovered and is being returned to you. It should be back in your possession by the end of the week." For a moment I couldn't speak. Relief washed over me, mixed with a profound sense of closure. "Thank you," I finally managed, my voice steady but full of emotion. "This means more than you know." "There's more," Chambers continued. "Michael's trial date has been set, and with the charges and evidence stacked against him, it's almost certain he'll face significant prison time. Justice is on its way." Hearing those words felt like the final piece of a puzzle falling into place. Michael, who had tried to destroy me, would finally face the consequences of his actions. When I hung up, I sat in quiet reflection. My father's necklace, the one tangible connection to his love and strength, was coming home. Michael's theft had been a desperate attempt to erase my sense of stability, but it had only proven how resilient I truly was. Looking out the window, I felt a surge of pride. I had faced betrayal, fought back, and emerged stronger. The day the necklace arrived, I picked it up from the investigator's office. Holding it in my hands, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. It sparkled just as brightly as it had the day my dad gave it to me. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of resilience, of love, and of everything I had overcome. That evening, I sat with my mom in her hospital room, the necklace resting around my neck. Her eyes lit up when she saw it, a rare moment of clarity breaking through her usual fatigue. "It's beautiful," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's home," I replied, taking her hand. As I sat there, an idea began to form. My mom had been through so much, watching her health decline, knowing how much I had sacrificed for her. She deserved something to look forward to, a chance to create new memories. That night, I began planning. A trip for the two of us, somewhere meaningful, yet peaceful. I thought about the places my dad had always wanted us to visit together, settling on a quiet coastal town he had loved as a child. The next morning, I shared the idea with her. "Once you're feeling better, we're going," I said, showing her photos of the town. Her smile, faint but genuine, was all the confirmation I needed. This wasn't just about the trip. It was about reclaiming joy, about moving forward without letting the past define us. As I packed up my things that night, I felt a calm I hadn't known in years. The storm Michael had brought into my life was over, and the future? It was mine to build, one step at a time.